I live in Pittsburgh, PA, and when I was 16, my cousin and I constantly went out to different haunted places around us, just to try to see if anything would happen. Most of the time we were scared because it was late at night and our minds were play tricks on us, but this night was different. We decided to explore the legend of 13 Bends. For a little backstory, it's located in a small town southeast of Pittsburgh with only one road in and out. 13 Bends comes from miscounting each bend it takes to get in and out. Some people count 13 down, 12 up, others have even counted 6 down and 7 up. That's not the scary part. In that small town, an orphanage burnt down. It's an active area during certain times, where the kids will make their presence known. We did some digging before we left. Some people said to park where the orphanage was, with a dirty car, or put flour on your car and handprints will appear. Others say to just go to the cemetery on Long Bendy Road. Others even reported being chased out by a car, for it to just disappear before the last bend, if you counted correctly. We experienced all of the above. One summer night, we decided to call a group of friends to go to 13 Bends. We didn't bother counting the bends. We just wanted to get down to where the orphanage used to be. We sat there for quite a bit, just talking, and periodically switching through static stations to see if we could hear anything in the feedback, but we couldn't. About a half hour of sitting, my cousin heard faint giggling that none of us heard, only him. He then decided to get out of the car, which was pretty dirty from the way down. And there were 3 handprints. We all jumped out of the car and couldn't believe it. I was pretty shaken up, because every place we've been to, nothing really happened. We didn't feel like sitting in the car anymore, so we walked on the train tracks that lead throughout the town. As we walked back to the car, there was even more handprints on it. I would say around 10 or 12 all around the car. We weren't necessarily running to get back home. We loved going out and experiencing this. So we immediately headed up to the cemetery. One of our friends was there previously and said she didn't experience anything when she was there, but her friends would call into the woods to ask the kids to come play. All they heard were branches breaking with no one in sight. So my cousin decided to call the kids for a game of tag. At this point, we weren't at the gravestones, just on the path down to it. It was pretty dark, so we stayed within sight of the car. He kept egging them on, saying, "Come on, let's play tag. I know you want to," and continued to say, "You're it. Tag me." And instantly after he said, "Tag my back," he lunged forward. We thought he was joking, but he swore up and down that he felt a hand on his back. He lifted up his shirt, and there was a small handprint. Our friends at this point wanted to leave. Another friend said that I smacked his back at some point when they weren't looking and were playing a joke, but I was internally just as scared as they were. I couldn't believe it. He wanted to show them that he wasn't joking, so he lifted up his shirt sleeve to show no handprint and started calling out again. "I tagged you. You're it." Nothing happened. Minutes went by. He's still calling out, "Come on. We're still playing, aren't we?" And then he covered his arm. Another handprint. Then we heard giggling. All of us immediately ran to the car and left. At this point, keep in mind that we're all pretty shaken up, and previously didn't count the bends down, so we couldn't count the bends going back up. It's not like you can get stuck down there. It's only one road, and then another road to turn out of the town. As we drove, we began to see headlights behind us. My cousin was driving pretty fast just to get back into a well-lit area. The headlights came from out of nowhere. It's a one-way road, and we were driving fast. The headlights kept getting closer and closer the further we got out of the town. Then just like that, they were gone, and we turned off the road. Needless to say, we didn't really go out seeking active areas anymore after that. We got what we were asking for, and it was not worth that feeling we felt. I am now 23 and I haven't experienced anything like that night. It will always give me the chills every time I think or talk about it. I had my experience when I was around 16 or so. I'm in my 40s now. I was still living in West Milford, but was hanging out with friends from out of town. My friends were with 2 of their guy friends, whom I'd never met before, when they picked me up. I brought up checking out Clinton Ard. So, we're on Clinton Road. It's like 1 or 2 in the morning. I straight up just started making stories up to freak the guys out. My friends were familiar with the road already and knew I wasn't being serious. One of the stories I concocted was that one night some friends of mine were driving down Clinton Ard. They were drunk, being obnoxious, loud, just acting like idiots. Suddenly, amidst their unwholesome behavior, they heard a loud bang on the roof of the car. They were like, "Okay, weird. What was that?" They kept going, not wanting to stop on the dark road in the middle of the night to check out the roof of the car. Once they got home and got out of the car, my friends noticed a large, bloody pulp of something sitting on the roof of the vehicle. They had no idea what it was or how it happened. Totally not true. I completely made the stupid story up, but the guys believed me. Not even 5 seconds after I finished my story, we hear the loudest bang on the roof of the car. The sound came from the outside of the car, on the roof. It was weird. When we checked the car later that night, there was no bloody pulp of anything on the roof. My boyfriend's experience was way creepier. It happened when he was about 18. A friend of ours lived right near Clinton Road. My boyfriend was hanging out with her and her boyfriend one night. They took a drive out to Clinton and parked in this spot near a well-known hiking trail. So they're out of the car, hiking into the woods where they were going to drink and just chill. It was late, around midnight. While walking the trail, they suddenly heard laughter. Everyone heard it. My boyfriend said it sounded like 3 or 4 people, maybe in their late teens or early 20s. Everyone was frozen. My boyfriend and his friends called out, "Hello? Who's there?" No response, movement, or sounds of footsteps walking on the brush that covered trail. Also, no flashlights suddenly lighting up. They stood there for 5 or 10 minutes waiting for the culprits to come into view, but no one ever came out. If it were some kids partying or hanging around, my boyfriend and friends would have heard or seen something. But there was nothing, just complete silence. He told me they eventually moved on to the spot they wanted to hang out at and ended up chilling in the woods for an hour after that. They never saw anyone, not even on their way back to the car. Honestly, Clinton Ard really is a spooky place. We go hiking there all the time. The woods there are so beautiful, but there's eeriness to them. It's not scary or negative, just eerie, especially when you go off trail. We'll sometimes just pull over onto a shoulder and go into woods with no hiking trails. Those woods are especially spooky. There's something about woods that are pretty much untouched by humans. It feels like there's a presence there. Not a bad one, just something ancient and aware. This was a couple of years ago. I was still in college. I worked at my local high school in South New Jersey on the night shift for some extra money. But unfortunately, the hours meant I didn't really get to have a life during the week. One day I get a call from my friends group on a Friday before I head into work saying that they were going to explore Clinton Road, which was known to be the scariest road in New Jersey. Obviously, I couldn't go, so I told them to let me know how it went. Later in the night, I get a call from them in panic saying all these crazy things happened to them. They described when they threw coins over the Ghost Boy Bridge, and when they drove off, a ghost truck was following them for 5 minutes until it just vanished. I thought they were just hyping it up because I missed out. I asked them if we could go the next night. This time, I got to see it for myself. It will be something I regret for the rest of my life. Since we were from South Jersey, Clinton Road was a bit of a drive for us, about 2 hours, so there was plenty of time for us to get all hyped up for the night. My approach to this night was to have an open mind and to see what happens. As soon as we arrived, the entire vibe changed from being pumped to honestly being scared. The road is in the middle of the woods, with houses few and far between. The first thing we see when we get there is a small mini castle-looking building is the best I can describe it. Since we drove such a long way, we all had to pee. My friend parked right before we arrived at the road, so we could relive ourselves. I went to the left, my friend Joe went straight, and my friend Harold went to the right. My friend Stephanie stayed behind in the car. After I was done, I immediately walked back along with Harold, but we noticed Joe walking towards the creepy building. I start shouting at him when he turns back around with the look of shock. Me being completely confused. I ask, where are you doing walking over there? Joe swore up and down that I was actually behind the building waving at him to follow me into the building. So naturally, we are all getting freaked out. so we got into the car and decided to keep going on. Once we arrived at the Ghost Boy Bridge, I check everyone for coins to make sure they don't fake it just to scare me. We all throw the coins. Nothing happens. I said, "See guys, it's all in your head. Let's go." So we started walking back to the car when we heard this metal sound. I turn around and saw the coins hit the road. We sprint back to the bridge to check, and we find the coins laying on the road. I was 100% convinced my friends were just messing with me, so I had the idea to mark a coin so they couldn't fake it. I threw the coin in the water, waited 5 minutes in silence. Nothing happens. I said, "See guys, let's go." When all of a sudden I hear the coins hit the road, I turn to walk back, and I'll be damned. It was the coin with the same exact markings I put on it. I'm extremely freaked at this point, so we decide to go driving down the windy road in a newer sports car. We are all spooked out and just want to get out of there in a hurry. When we see headlights appear behind us, seemingly out of nowhere. I did not see them attached to a vehicle. I'm no car expert, but I bet my life they were lights on an old truck. It was getting closer the faster we drove. As we drove around a curve, the lights suddenly disappear. So now, all in panic, we decide to pull over to map our way out. It was dead silence, no light except our headlights in the woods. When we hear a woman's voice moaning in the woods as we look towards the woods. I saw this woman in a white dress standing in the woods right next to our car. She proceeded to let out the loudest scream I have ever heard. We are screaming at this point, when Joe drives off like a bat out of hell. Once we make it back to Main Road, we decide to dig a little deeper on this road. Apparently, the ghost truck tries to make people crash on Dead Man's Curve. There have been numerous bodies buried there from the famous murderer, the Iceman. On our way home, we were so excited that we survived, but wanted to go back again the next night. We suddenly pass an old rundown church that looked like it hasn't been used in 50 years. Of course, there was a sign left out front that read, "You need Jesus on Sunday." Safe to say that I never went back, and even up to this day, the friend group still refuses to talk about what happened that night on Clinton Road. About 15 years ago, I was driving on Clinton Road. I grew up right near there, from college at around midnight on a Wednesday night in the middle of winter. We all knew the stories and spooky lore behind Clinton Road. We used to drive up there to ghost hunting while I was in high school. Anyway, I'm driving on Clinton Road at midnight, in the middle of a week. It's dead quiet outside, no cars whatsoever. That's when I take one of the sharpest turns, and my headlights pass over the woods as I turn, when I see something about 5 feet into the tree line. It's this middle-aged balding guy with a mustache just standing there. He had blue jeans and a white-collared shirt. I can still see him in my mind till this day, just standing there in the trees. Needless to say, I stepped on the gas a little and got home without incident. But I still think about that guy. There were no cars parked anywhere. He was just standing in the woods in the middle of the night. So bizarre. Also, my friend's older sister was driving on that road late one night when a car sped up behind her and suddenly turned on his emergency lights. It was one that the cops would use when pulling someone over. She got a weird feeling about the lights and decided not to stop. Once she got cell service, she called 911. They said they had no patrols out there at the time and told her not to stop the car. She kept driving and the car eventually made a U-turn and went back the other way. Very strange stuff. I always hated driving on that road at night.